Hey everyone, have you ever wondered what life was really like in the Inca Empire? Not the huge temples or famous battles, but the daily lives of regular people. Life in the Inca Empire was all about family, hard work, and community. People didn't just live in small households. They were part of a bigger family group called an ayllu. This wasn't just a neighborhood, it was a group where almost everyone was related in some way. Even the words they used for family were different. There was no separate word for father and uncle or mother and aunt. Cousins were simply called brothers and sisters. Most people married within their ayllu, keeping the group closely connected. Each ayllu shared land, and the elders decided how to divide it so that every family had enough to live on. In return, everyone had responsibilities, not just for their own family, but for the whole group. The Incas didn't invent this system, it had been around for a long time. But they used it to help control their empire, making sure local traditions stayed in place while also demanding loyalty to the Inca ruler in Cusco. They even created a noble class that ordinary people couldn't marry into, keeping power in the hands of a few. Warriors, who once followed their own ayllu leaders, now had to swear loyalty to the emperor. People could still worship their local gods, but those gods were placed under the authority of the Inca gods, especially Inti, the sun god. The Incas were great at keeping records, but they didn't have writing. Instead, they used quipu, knotted strings that recorded information about people, work, and taxes. Every man was counted based on his age and ability to work, whether in the fields, the mines, or the army. But even though the Inca system was well organized, it wasn't perfect. Many people didn't feel connected to their distant rulers, and the heavy workload, taxes, and military service made life difficult. So when the Spanish arrived, some groups saw a chance to escape Inca rule. They helped the Spanish, which led to the fall of the empire. Now, let's talk about daily life. Most people spent their days farming and taking care of their families. But big events like births, marriages, and funerals were important moments that brought communities together. Many babies didn't survive, so when a child lived past infancy, it was a big deal. Inca families usually had around 5 people, and every child was welcomed because more hands meant more help in the fields. There was no birth control, and women kept working even when they were pregnant. When they gave birth, there were no midwives to help. Babies were carried around in wooden cradles while their mothers worked. Once a baby was old enough to stop nursing, the family held a celebration called rututikoi. The baby got a name, gifts, and their nails and hair were cut and kept as a tradition. Since there were no schools, kids learned everything from their parents: how to farm, weave, cook, or whatever trade their family did. They started helping out as soon as they could walk. But noble children in Cusco were different. They got special training in Inca history, religion, and even warfare. Some girls were chosen to become priestesses and learned how to weave, cook special meals, and make chicha beer for religious ceremonies. Life in the Inca Empire wasn't just about battles in big cities. It was about families working together, passing down traditions, and making sure everyone had a role to play. Growing up as an Inca meant going through some big milestones, and puberty was one of the biggest changes in a young person's life. For girls, there was a special celebration where they got gifts and their adult name given to them by their eldest uncle. Boys had a tougher challenge. They had to prove their strength by running races and taking part in rituals. Their ears were pierced so they could wear ear spools, a symbol of their new status. Just like the girls, boys also got a new name. Instead of last names like we have today, the Incas chose names based on a person's qualities. Some were named after powerful animals like condors or jaguars, while others had names meaning gold, stars, or purity. If you were from a noble family, you might earn extra titles throughout your life for your achievements. After reaching adulthood, the next big step was marriage. Most people got married in their teenage years, though no one knows the exact age. Being single wasn't really an option. Since farming required teamwork, everyone was expected to marry and contribute. Divorce didn't really happen, at least not officially. The process was simple. If the girl's father accepted coca leaves from the boy, that meant the marriage was agreed upon. Instead of individual weddings, entire groups of couples in a village would get married at the same time in one big ceremony. Some communities allowed trial marriages, where a couple lived together for a while before deciding to stay together forever. If it didn't work out, they could separate without shame. Once officially married, the bride moved into her husband's home, and they worked the land he inherited. Women inherited land too, but only half as much, and their portion was given back to the community when they married. Homes were simple: mud brick walls, a thatched roof, a single doorway, and no windows. Inside there was a fire for cooking, llama skin beds, and a space for keeping small animals like guinea pigs. Inca society allowed polygamy, but it was mostly for nobles. High-status men often had several wives and concubines, but the first wife was always the most important. If a man's wife died, he could remarry anyone, but a widow could only marry her husband's brother. Life was all about work. Men farmed, built roads, or served in the military when required, while women took care of the home, raised children, and did weaving, which was an important skill since people only had one set of clothes. Men wore a sleeveless tunic with trousers, while women wore a long dress with a belt. Sandals were optional. Pottery was another common skill, done by both men and women. Meals were simple, eaten twice a day using wood or dried llama dung for cooking fuel. Meat was a rare treat, saved for special occasions. Coastal communities ate more fish, but for most Incas, meals consisted of maize, potatoes, and quinoa. Wild fruits like pineapples and sour cherries were common, and popcorn was a popular snack. Despite their hard-working lifestyle, the Incas loved celebrations. Festivals were a big part of life, with music, dancing, and plenty of chicha beer. Instruments like panpipes, drums, rattles, and seashell trumpets created the music, and dancers often acted out hunting, farming, or battles. When they weren't working or celebrating, Incas enjoyed playing games, storytelling, and even gambling with dice. Death was a serious event, and ancestor worship was very important. The Incas mummified their dead, wrapping them in fine textiles and placing them in a fetal position. If the family could afford it, the deceased's belongings were buried with them or burned in a ritual. Funerals lasted about a week, and among the nobility, servants and lesser wives were sometimes sacrificed to accompany their ruler into the afterlife. Mummies were placed in graves or caves, and they weren't forgotten. They were brought out for ceremonies, and their tombs were reopened to offer food and drinks. Mourning was a big deal too. People wore black clothes, and women covered their heads. If a man lost his wife, he couldn't remarry for at least a year, sometimes two. Through every stage of life, childhood, marriage, work, and even death, the Incas stayed deeply connected to their families, their traditions, and their community.